Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam, and we are also joined by my colleague Elena, and we are here today on behalf of the Community Energy Coach program, which is a specialized extension of the Energy Coach service designed to support communities, local governments, and industry stakeholders in the promotion of the CleanBC rebate programs, as well as education of heat pumps. We will be sharing a bunch of different resources, information about heat pumps today, and all of the information we are discussing rebate-wise is what is available today, March 23rd, 2022. So rebate amounts can change on occasion, so it's always best to get the most up-to-date information. And you can do that by visiting betterhomesbc.ca. We also have Julia Beatty on hand as well with the Shuswap Climate Action, and she'll be speaking in a few moments about that. I'll be monitoring the chat. If you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I'll be answering along the way. The questions that come in, the recording, as well as the slides, we'll package it all together in a nice follow-up for everyone who registered today. So stay tuned for that, and probably later next week, we'll send that out as well. I'd like to also take a brief moment to acknowledge with respect the Coast and Strait Salish and Wassanic peoples on whose traditional unceded territory we are presenting here today, as well as the Lekwungen, Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wassanic, whose historical relationship with this land continue to this day. And now we'll pass things over to Julia to say a quick hello.
Hi there. I live in Salmon Arm, and I'm actually the chair of the Shuswap Climate Action Group. I first of all want to thank all of the participants. I hope this evening meets all your expectations. Please take advantage of the question and answer section at the end of tonight's presentation from our terrific community energy coaches, Sam and Alina. And so I just want to say a couple words about why we're here tonight. It's really important to note that all the research so far is telling us that we must stop burning fossil fuels. All transportation and clean and green electrification of our energy supplies are possibly the two largest areas of decarbonization, with heating and cooling of buildings probably one of the most viable solutions to curtail emissions. And also, specifically to mention that it also, not burning fossil fuels in your home eliminates harmful indoor pollution. So I just want to say it's really important for us to get to know heat pumps and that kind of decarbonization technology, because it's coming. And I actually, on a personal note, I actually do have a heat pump. We have a dual fuel system in our house. Mind you, it's a much older heat pump than the technology available today, which the Alina and Sam will be talking to in a lot more detail. But it's clean, it's quiet, it really has been reliable, and it heats and cools the home. And so we're really happy with it, and we're hopefully going to be able to upgrade to a cold climate heat pump in the not too distant future. I also want to thank the BC Community Energy Coaches, Sam and Alina, for tonight's presentation. Really appreciate it. I've seen one previously last year, and it was just terrific. So I'll hand it over to you gals, and have a good evening, everyone. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome, Julia. Hi, everyone. My name is Elena, and I'm really excited to tell you more about heat pumps today. Thanks for, taking the time tonight after work and everything, or your busy lives. So I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to get into it. So what we're going to cover today is quite a bit. First, I want to start by telling you why we get so excited about heat pumps, why you hear the word heat pump everywhere, what a heat pump is and how it works. I want to introduce you to the types of heat pumps that are most commonly used here in BC. And we're going to debunk some myths about heat pumps. I will share tips with you that you should know before you buy a heat pump, where you can find contractors. And of course, we will dive into the rebates and where you find all that information. So first of all, why heat pumps? Why do we hear it everywhere? The biggest reason for that is on a really large scale is that we are in a climate crisis, and that's why the province and the government, all the governments have different climate strategies, and ours here in BC is called CleanBC. We got the roadmap to 2030, and that is the roadmap to drastically reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 to then reduce them even more drastically by 2050 to meet our net zero targets. And one of the many, many strategies in this in this paper here are to decarbonize our buildings. So decarbonize our buildings just means to really lower the emissions of our building stock. And we do that by implementing low carbon technologies like heat pumps. Reason for that is that if we take a look at our buildings here in BC, they represent 11% of the province's total emissions, which is quite a bit just from how we live. And 54% of the homes are heated by fossil fuels still. That's more than half of the homes. And that is why we want to shift to a low carbon technology, to an energy efficient technology. That's really the only way how we can drastically reduce the emissions in those buildings here. And the way we do that is we shift towards electrification. And because electrification really just means shifting away from fossil fuel heating systems to electric heating systems, and among those ideally to electric heating systems that are the most efficient. In our case, heat pumps. So that was kind of the larger scale. Policy is really going towards heat pumps, towards electrification. So this is just where the market and where policymaking is going. But what about for you as homeowners? Why would you want to choose a heat pump? Really, first and foremost, heat pumps are just simply the most energy efficient heating system that you can possibly have worldwide. It's by far the most efficient. It provides you with year-round comfort because you get a 2-in-1 system for heating and cooling your home in the summer. Here in BC, we're insanely fortunate that our electricity comes from hydroelectricity, which is considered carbon neutral. So heating with electricity means that we heat in a climate-friendly way here. And you get a much healthier home because heat pumps do provide very effective air filtration and dehumidification. And if you do heat with a fossil fuel heating system, switching to a heat pump will mean that you will no longer pay carbon tax on your energy bills. And some of you might know this, the carbon tax is steadily increasing in BC and in Canada over time, which will make heating with gas, oil, propane a lot less attractive in the future. But let's take a quick look at that efficiency claim that I made here. Heat pumps are about 3 to 4 times as energy efficient as the most high efficient gas furnace or electric baseboards. But how is that even possible? So a gas furnace, for example, takes gas and burns the fuel to create heat energy. So it generates heat by burning a fuel. For electric baseboards, it takes the electricity and generates heat energy. But what a heat pump does, instead of generating heat, it absorbs heat from the ambient air. Even on cold winter days, there's still enough heat energy left in the ambient air. And then you put in extra electricity to operate the compressor and everything. That's the part that you pay for. And then you pump it up to a higher temperature level and move it to the inside of your home. So really, to summarize that, a heat pump moves heat from one place to another instead of generating heat. And that's how it can be so much more efficient. Because it is so much more efficient than electric baseboards and electric furnace, among the electric heating systems, it's by far the most cost-effective way to heat a home. because it requires way less electricity to get the home to the same temperature level. And why would you want to choose a heat pump? Well, a really big aspect, one that we hear more and more is more important for people, is the cooling that heat pumps provide. So Sam and I are presenting from Victoria here on Vancouver Island, and I know that the heat dome must have been really, really challenging for you, Shuswap region last year, but even for us, it was really unbearable. I personally actually camped in my own yard for 3 days because I couldn't sleep in my house. And I was very jealous of all the people I know who had a heat pump because they simply turned their air conditioning on and it was fine. So we will probably be expecting the next heat dome, unfortunately, and a heat pump will really help you stay safe and cool in your homes. We talked about the climate friendliness. It's no secret that heating with oil is very greenhouse gas intensive. In comparison to that, gas heating also still huge greenhouse gas emissions. Those are the ones that we really want to lower. And by moving to an electric heating system, we drastically lower those emissions. And especially by moving towards the most efficient heating system, that's going to be even better. So not only do we experience heat domes, we also have experienced forest fires a lot in recent summers, of course, much more where you are. And heat pumps do provide air filtration. And that's really, really beneficial because it helps rid your home of not only the forest smoke, but also any indoor pollutants, dust, pollen. If you have people in your household that have allergies, it's going to be really beneficial. And with heat pumps, there's all kinds of different types that you're going to get to know in a second. But the great thing is you can get a heat pump that provides zonal heating, which really just means that you can heat parts of the home to different temperature levels. So if you have a basement or a rental suite or anything like that, you can choose to heat different parts of the home to different temperature levels. With a heat pump, you actually get a really low maintenance heating system. We will talk about the set it and forget it principle in a second here, but yeah, you really just enjoy a very efficient heating and cooling system that's also fairly low maintenance. And heat pumps are a great upgrade for wood heated homes. There might be some among you who rely on cutting and hauling wood into their home as their primary heating system, just as this gentleman here where Sam and I are, and he lives in Saanich, and he upgraded from a wood stove to a mini split ductless heat pump. You see the indoor head here in the background, and that provides him with heating and cooling now, and he just kept his wood stove just for, a fire for ambience here and there. And then to just summarize that, quite frankly, heat pumps are just the heating system of the future. This is where we're going to go. If you want a climate friendly and climate resilient home, a heat pump is the way to go. So that's not only your solar PV or your electric vehicle, it's really also switching away from that fossil fuel to an efficient heating system. So now that we've learned that heat pumps are awesome and why we want to get them installed, I quickly want to go over again how they work. And it's actually pretty simple to explain because most of you do have a heat pump at home, because your refrigerator is really just an insulated box with a type of heat pump in it. So if we look at that, in your refrigerator, there's those refrigerant lines that give it the name. And that refrigerant absorbs heat energy and pumps it up through this compressor to a higher temperature level, and then releases the heat energy to the outside of your fridge. So if you take a look at what's behind your fridge, which is something we all try to avoid, you will feel that there is warm air coming out. And that's what the heat pump does. It absorbs heat from one place and moves it to another, just like this. And there is actually a guy, another ginger fellow from BC Hydro, Dave from BC Hydro, does a really great job explaining how those heat pumps work. That's why I'm gonna quickly, I'm gonna be quiet for a second and let you guys enjoy Dave explain how a heat pump works.
Hey, it's me, Dave, and this is a heat pump. It's an energy-efficient heating and cooling system you can install at home. How does it work? Here, let me show you. Your typical air source heat pump, like this mini split system, has two main components, an indoor and an outdoor unit, which are connected by a refrigerant line. To heat your home in the winter, the outdoor unit pulls heat from the air outside your home. Yes, believe it or not, even when it's cold, outside air still contains a certain amount of heat. The warm air then goes through a refrigerant coolant that is compressed to increase the temperature even more. This warm air is then pushed through to the home. In the summer, to cool your home, the process is reversed. The heat pump absorbs the warm air in your home and transfers it outside. The compressor circulates refrigerant to the indoor evaporator coil, and the refrigerant absorbs heat as it passes over the indoor air. The resulting cool and dehumidified air then gets blown back into the home. And that's how a heat pump works. The key here is that heat pumps don't generate heat, but instead they move it from one place to another, which is why heat pumps are so energy efficient. In fact, a heat pump can be up to 300% more efficient than electric baseboards. So if you already have electric heat, a heat pump can help you save on your energy bill. Less energy and more savings? I like. If you're switching from a fossil fuel-based heating source like a natural gas furnace, you'll be reducing your carbon footprint. It's kind of like going from a size 18 down to a size 2. You get the idea. It's an environmentally friendly option, especially here in BC where we're powered by water. Plus, with rebates from CleanBC and BC Hydro, there's more to save.
All right, thank you, Dave. So, Dave just summarized what I just said. Heat pumps move heat from one place to another instead of generating it. And that's what makes it such a genius heating system and cooling system. And now that you know that, there's a few heat pumps that are definitely the most popular here in BC. So let's take a look at those. The first one, a central ducted heat pump. So the central ducted heat pumps, they use ductwork throughout the house, just like a furnace. They usually have an outdoor unit like this. The compressor sits in here, it absorbs heat and transfers it to the inside of the home where it then distributes it through the ductwork. And among the different heating systems, ductless or ducted heat pumps, there are also cold climate heat pumps, which are probably very interesting for you guys in the Shuswap region. So cold climate heat pumps work very efficiently in conditions down to minus 25 degrees. And even at minus 18 degrees, they still maintain an efficiency of over 200%. So that's still twice as efficient as a gas furnace or electric baseboards. And like I said, they come as ducted heat pumps or ductless heat pumps. And how can they do that? Well, basically a cold climate heat pump just uses a variable speed compressor with an improved heat exchanger. So it just uses better components that maximizes the heating capacity at colder temperatures and just maintains really high efficiencies even during the milder climates. So Julia actually mentioned a dual fuel heat pump earlier in her introduction. And a dual fuel heat pump is one of those central systems that uses ductwork throughout the house, but it is integrated with a natural gas or propane furnace. So they basically communicate with each other, where the heat pump works as the primary heating system up to a set temperature switchover set point, where the gas furnace then takes over. So that is an option as well. And then we got the ductless heat pumps. And the ductless heat pumps are really neat too, because they usually have a smaller outdoor unit. And then they connect with refrigerant lines to mostly indoor heads that are mounted on the top of the wall. Or among the mini split heat pumps, you can also find ducted or partially ducted mini splits. So let's take a look at what that can look like. So we got a really busy looking house here. And here's the outdoor unit of that mini split heat pump. And in this case, they've chosen a kind of a hybrid system where part of the refrigerant connects to an indoor head that services a bigger living room, dining room situation. And the other refrigerant lines go to vents and ductwork that's installed in the attic to connect to the odd bedroom. So that's what it can look like, usually installed in an attic or a crawl space. So yeah, among the mini splits, it's really great. You can choose to have an indoor head or multiple, or you can choose to have mini ducts. It's very versatile. As a general idea of when to choose a central system versus a mini split, generally speaking, if you have a home that has an existing furnace and that has ductwork throughout the house, and that ductwork is in really good shape, nice and airtight, then it's a good idea to choose a central system if you like the central type of heat. On the other side, if you live in a home that has electric baseboards or a wood stove that doesn't have any pre-existing ductwork, then a mini split is a really great option. Or a home that has an in-law suite or is a smaller open concept kind of home. But generally speaking, both provide air conditioning, both provide air filtration and dehumidification control, and only the ductless heat pumps can provide zonal heating, whereas the central system is the one that requires ductwork. So homes come in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. So a contractor can definitely tell you what type of heat pump is the best for your home. Okay, so Sam and I have talked to probably thousands of homeowners, and there's quite a few worries and concerns out there about heat pumps. So let's see what people are most concerned about. Of course, the cost of a heat pump. So what we got here is a lot of numbers, and we got the range of gas furnace costs and heat pump costs. And you see that in both cases, the range is very broad, just because homes come in all shapes and sizes. So it's really hard to give people a ballpark number because the range is so broad. And so take those averages here with a grain of salt. What I can say though is that the rebates for heat pumps are currently absolutely amazing. And we will get into that, of course. And after rebates, heat pumps, the cost of a heat pump is very comparable to a gas furnace, especially if you take into consideration that you get a 2-in-1 heating and cooling system, and you drastically lower the greenhouse gas emissions, and you won't pay carbon tax on your heat pump. A lot of people are concerned with heat pumps and noise, and I think most people think about those older generation heat pumps that were admittedly pretty noisy. The newer heat pumps, they have decibel ratings around 50 to 60 decibels, which is somewhat comparable to a dryer or quieter than a toilet flushing. And mind you, that's if you stand right next to it. If you are very concerned about noise, definitely ask your contractor about the decibel ratings of the heat pumps they carry. And among the heat pumps, there are newer ultra quiet models. And the city of Vancouver actually has a really great publication here where they talk about heat pumps and noise. Part of that is some tips where to place a heat pump. Some municipalities even have bylaws around that, and things that you can do to lower the noise even further, like using fences or rubber mats that you can place them on. There's another myth that heat pumps are very high maintenance, but really it's not higher maintenance than any other heating system. Mainly, you want to schedule a maintenance appointment with your installer every 1 or 2 years, just to check the refrigerants and everything. And then one of the most common questions that we get is, well, how much am I going to pay for my bills once I have a heat pump? And it is one of those really annoying and highly depends answers again, just because operating cost depends on so many different factors, like the size and layout of your home, the type of heat pump you get. Do you get a cold climate heat pump or a normal heat pump? What's its efficiency rating? What are your occupant preferences? How is your home insulated? All those things go into need to be taken into consideration when talking about cost. So what I can generally say though is if you start using a heat pump, you will see changes to your hydro bill. Because if you're currently heating with a fossil fuel and now you're heating with electricity, then of course your hydro bill will increase. However, that's offset by a decrease in your fossil fuel consumption, and the carbon tax leads to higher gas rates over the next few years, so it's going to become less and less attractive to heat with a fossil fuel. Of course, if you are heating with electricity currently, then you will very likely see a decrease in your hydro bill because a heat pump will use significantly less electricity. Yeah, then of course, what will affect the operating costs is the efficiency of a heat pump. So if you go with a high efficiency heat pump or even better cold climate heat pump, it will use significantly less electricity. And you want to get your heat pump installed properly by a professional in combination with other upgrades in your home. So it's really important that your home is well insulated, that it's nice and airtight, that it has good windows, because you could install the best heat pump in the world. If you lose all that heat through the building envelope, of course, your bills are going to be a lot higher. So to summarize that, the way you maximize the efficiency and make the cost as low as possible is to get a high efficiency heat pump that's been well installed and that's been installed in an energy efficient home. Speaking of maintenance and operating a heat pump, there are a few considerations that will also, affect the cost, which is, just check the manufacturer's manual just once, even though nobody likes to read manuals. But regularly clean or replace the indoor filters, especially after forest fire season. And of course, then check batteries and the remote control. That's pretty self-explanatory. Every spring and every fall, you want to clear the outdoor unit of any debris, leaves, snow, dirt. And annually, like I said earlier, schedule a servicing appointment with the installer just to make sure that it's operating smoothly. And then a really, really important operating tip is to set it and forget it. A lot of people don't know that a heat pump will run the smoothest if you set it to a certain temperature level, to your preferred temperature level, and you ideally leave it at that level. That doesn't mean that you can turn the heat pump up or down a few degrees here and there. It just means that actually shutting a heat pump off completely, turning it off, turning it back on, will not lead to a more efficient operation. In fact, a heat pump just takes a while to get up to its temperature level, and from then on, it's running really smoothly. But it runs the most efficient if you set it to your preferred temperature level and kind of leave it at that. Yeah, we kind of already talked about cold climate heat pumps, but it is definitely a myth that heat pumps don't work in cold weather. While it's true that the colder the outdoor temperature is, the less heat energy is in the ambient air to absorb, so a heat pump gets less and less efficient. However, cold climate heat pumps operate in temperatures as low as -25, and there's tons of examples all around North America. For example, this heat pump can be found in Colorado, where it is -25 degrees. We got some great heat pump programs in New England, and the winters average at around -8. And here in Canada, Nova Scotia is pretty active with the heat pump rebates, and their winters are quite hefty as well at -18 degrees. So now that we know all this, a few tips before you go out and buy a heat pump. First and foremost, I cannot emphasize that enough. Buy your heat pump through a qualified installer and avoid buying it wholesale. And then do your research. It is definitely beneficial to get as many quotes from different installers as possible. We are aware that it's not very easy to get a hold of a lot of heat pump installers at the moment, but it is definitely worth the time to do your proper research, ask many questions. Do you carry cold climate heat pumps? Do you know about all the rebates out there? Yeah, and then just comparing the different quotes. And the other tip is, as I mentioned, your heat pump can be the best heat pump in the world. If your home is under insulated and leaky, then that heat pump won't really help you much because you lose a lot of heat. And first and foremost, you want to make sure that your attic is well insulated, that heat doesn't really get in so easily in the summer. That way your heat pump can be sized a lot smaller and doesn't have to work as hard. And then of course you want to select a heat pump that's properly sized for your home, that is designed for your climate, and that includes supplementary heating if that's necessary. For example, if you experience a lot of power outages. And where do we find contractors? So you can actually find contractors on this website. I will introduce that website properly in a second, but it's betterhomesbc.ca, and you can find it through the menu button, and you can search by region. So for example, you can type in Salmon Arm and hit submit, and you get a list of contractors who went through additional best practices training. Okay, before we jump into the rebates, I'm going to take a quick sip of water because we're in for quite a ride. Okay, rebates. The good news is there's a lot of rebates out there, but a lot of rebates come with a lot of requirements and deadlines, so it can be actually quite a bit to navigate. So you might find yourself a little bit overwhelmed by all this information that we've crammed into this webinar, but don't worry about it. I will definitely share all the resources where you can talk to real humans about your situation and find the rebates for your specific home. And I quickly wanted to repeat the quick disclaimer about the rebates because they do come and go and the rebate amounts change. So the rebates that I am discussing today are available as of today, March 23rd, 2022. So among the rebates, there's two major programs that you should be aware of. That is our provincial CleanBC rebates. And then we got a federal program, nationwide Canada Greener Homes. And those are two totally separate programs, but you can access both of them. A lot of information. I'll quickly explain this, this table. So what you see here are the different heat pump rebate amounts for different types of heat pumps. So you see the mini splits and central systems here. And what you see here are the rebates that you can get when you switch from electricity to a heat pump. So that ranges somewhere between $1,000 and $7,000. Or if you switch away from a fossil fuel like oil, gas, propane, then the rebates are significantly higher, up to $11,000. where do you find rebates? Well, this is really the website that I want all of you to know, betterhomesbc.ca. It's a government-funded program, so where it was designed to be a one-stop shop for British Columbians to learn about all kinds of energy efficiency upgrades in an unbiased way, to find all the rebates in one spot, not on 15 different websites, and especially to have energy coaching. So this website also comes with a free energy coaching support that I really want you guys to be aware of, because that's a great team of energy coaches who really knows their stuff about all the rebates, and you can call them toll free to talk about your specific situation Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So on the CleanBC website, you can find a rebate search tool, and that comes in really handy because you can select your location, tell them how your home is currently heated, and then you get a list of rebates that you could potentially apply for. So for instance, if you're interested in the mini split heat pumps, you click on that and you get to a summary page that outlines absolutely everything you need to know about the rebates. So deadlines and program requirements, qualifying product lists, and if you get stuck, you just call an energy coach. What I want to say about the provincial rebate program is that you have to live in an eligible home. So that's single family, side by side, row homes or duplexes, or mobile homes on permanent foundations. It's just not eligible for condo buildings or high rises. Then the heat pump has to become the primary heating system of the home. So you can't just install an air conditioning unit, and the heat pump must be on a qualifying product list. On the next few slides, I quickly want to go over the different rebate amounts through this program. Again, a lot of information, but you will have access to those slides. So if you are switching from an electric heating system, like electric baseboards or a furnace, and you switch to a mini split, the rebate is currently $1,000. If you switch to a central system with ductwork throughout the house, it's $2,000. That rebate comes from BC Hydro, and before you get the rebate, you have to check your eligibility by using this tool here. You need your BC Hydro account number and the square footage of your home, and it tells you if you're eligible. And and by the way, those amounts here, they are the same for wood heated homes as well. So 1,000 for mini splits and 2,000 for central systems. When you switch from a fossil fuel, the rebates are actually quite a bit higher. So for mini splits and central systems, you get $6,000 rebate if you completely remove your fossil fuel heating system. And if you go with a dual fuel heat pump, so you still have a fossil fuel backup, it's $3,000. There's also some other types of heat pumps that we didn't really go into detail. They're hydronic heat pumps for in-floor heating, for example. There's rebates out there for them as well. And a lot of homes that switch from a fossil fuel to an electric heating system, they have to upgrade their electrical panel. If that is the case, there is a rebate for that as well, which is $500. So that was the rebates, but CleanBC actually also offers an alternative to paying upfront and then getting reimbursed, and that is through their low interest financing program. So as an alternative, you can actually get your heat pump financed at 0% over 5 years. The loans are up to $40,000, which should definitely cover the cost of a heat pump. You can only do that if you switch away from a fossil fuel, and you have to work with a finance registered contractor because they set you up with a loan. The CleanBC program also has a great group purchase rebate. So the group purchase rebate is for homeowners who work together as a group, like for example, neighbors, or some municipalities start a group, or contractors start a group. And the more people join this group and install a heat pump at around the same time, the more they can get on top of their normal heat pump rebate. So if you got 7 neighbors and you start a group together and you all install your heat pump, each of you gets an extra $275. You can either start a group and register, or join an existing group and register and join a group. And the newest offer among the CleanBC rebates is an income qualified version of the heat pump rebates. Well, actually all the CleanBC rebates. So the great thing about this is if you're in one of those income brackets, then there are just enhanced rebates that cover either 60 or 95% of the upgrade costs, like insulation, windows, or a heat pump. And for the heat pump specifically, that means up to $9,500 are covered when you switch from a fossil fuel, or up to $5,000 when switching from electric baseboards or wood. For this program, you have to work with a specific income qualified registered contractor, because what they do is they're registered with the program and they can subtract this amount directly from your invoice, so you don't have to pay for that portion. So that's a really great income qualified version. Okay, we're done with all the provincial stuff, but that lets me get to the last one, which is the federal program, Canada Greener Homes. So that program launched last May, I believe. And what it offers is up to $5,000 towards energy efficiency upgrades like insulation or windows, solar PV, and heat pumps. It maxes out at $5,000. And you get a $600 grant towards an Energet home evaluation, because you have to do an Energet home evaluation before and after doing upgrades. That's not a requirement for CleanBC, but for Canada Greener Homes, you have to start with an evaluation. For heat pumps specifically, through that program, it ranges between $2,500 for a mini split and $5,000 for a cold climate heat pump. And just keep in mind that if you get a mini split heat pump that only has one indoor head, this program doesn't cover that. It has to have at least 2 indoor heads. So you're probably wondering, well, okay, how can I maximize my rebates and get both programs? If you want to get both programs, start with an Energet home evaluation, because you need it for the federal program. And you can find energy advisors in your area at betterhomesbc.ca/EA or under the menu button. And then you want to register with the federal program, because they require pre-registration. And then we always recommend, when you've done your energy evaluation, call an energy coach, because they can really help you, navigate the next steps, make sure that you got all your ducks in a row, does your heat pump qualify, and so on. Because this program, both programs have their own sets of program requirements. They have their own sets of deadlines. For example, CleanBC has a 6-month application deadline, whereas for Canada Greener Homes, there's no deadline, but you wait until the very end to apply, and so on. So an energy coach can really help you navigate all those different rebates, make sure that you get something for your heat pump. And here's the phone number again. Like I said, really great team. They know their stuff. It's toll free, and they're available Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And the Federal Canada Greener Homes program also has a phone number, and they also have the world's longest email address. So with that, we made it. We learned a ton about heat pumps, I hope. And I want to quickly take a moment to thank you for showing up tonight, for spending your time with us and with heat pumps. And you can find all this information on betterhomesbc.ca. And with that, I will pass it on to Sam if there's any questions.
Awesome, thank you. What we're going to do now is stop the recording. Told you that.